Hey guys, it is Wednesday, October 30th. This week on the podcast, my friend, my man, Coldie, joins me to discuss crypto art and a number of other topics. Coldie definitely has a footprint in the crypto art space. He's also involved in the community for Cryptovoxels. You'll see him around there. And he's also got an interesting take on the market. So we have a great conversation in general, and I think you guys would really like it. As always, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and share this episode with someone that you think would like to learn about crypto art, blockchain. All right, guys, enjoy.
This is the BlockHash Podcast.
So, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. How you doing?
Good. So, for the audience, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, your background a little bit, just so they can get familiar with you.
My name is Coldie. I'm a commercial artist as well as a fine artist. I started off. I got a degree in fine art, and from there started working as a graphic designer for a couple different companies. I worked for IKEA as their in-house designer, which was super fun. And then after that, I got I guess this was kind of a dream job. I worked for LA Weekly, which is a big alternative newspaper in Los Angeles, and I got to design all their covers and do some
That's
really experimental stuff. It was a great job. I didn't know what I had. I was super young, but I had a great time.
Yeah, when did you do that?
That was in 2006.
Okay, that was a while ago then.
Yeah, that was like fresh out of when I didn't even know what the hell I was doing, which I think was kind of the beautiful side of it. Was I came out of school where there was no rules, and somehow I landed a job that also didn't have a lot of rules. So I just kind of hopped in there and just experimented, and you learn to work quickly at a weekly newspaper because things, every week there's a new cover, there's new layouts, so you learn to iterate quickly and self edit. And I think those are a lot of skills that I've been holding on to ever since.
Yeah, I can imagine. Were you in like journalism, or like what was your your backgrounds that like led you into wanting to do that?
My background, it was purely design that got me. I was like their staff graphic designer.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
I would work with the design, but actually in the process of working there, I started getting. I would do concert reviews where I'd get concert tickets and go check out my favorite bands and get to do a write up on it. So
hmm
that was a little bit of like out of my comfort zone creativity, which I really love doing that type of stuff too.
Yeah, that sounds cool. What did you do after that? Like, what followed up afterwards?
Actually, really funny. It's come full circle. So I was at LA Weekly, and I was approached by a virtual world startup. It had really good backing in the music industry, and it was looking like it had some potential. So I, took the leap and I went over there,
hmm
and that literally was right before the economy crashed.
hmm
So it was great until it wasn't. So
I can imagine.
after that
What was
happened,
it
I
called?
just it was called Music Mogul, and it was in
Music
its
Mobile.
funding phases, and it was getting traction. But looking back, it was still ahead of its time, a little bit too early. But
Sure.
it got me into that, seeing the world virtually.
hmm
So as soon as Voxels came around, I was all about it. I knew what it was about.
Yeah. So you're probably pretty familiar with everything when it comes to crypto voxels. Then, since you kind of have that background a little bit.
At least I saw where it could go. It's whenever you look at these startups, you don't know what the plan is, but I knew some potentials and the way I was interacting with it,
hmm
and just how easy it was to just start building and being a part of it was so fascinating to me that I've had so much fun. It's great.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about Cryptovoxels so much is the whole community behind it. I've known about it for, geez, almost a year, but like early spring, like is when I start like really engaging with the community and everything, and with the developer, and then got to watch it grow like exponentially, like over a 3-4 month period of time. But no, the community is awesome too, and it's really addicting. And I'm sure you recognize that too.
Yeah, I mean, the addicting factor is, pretty obvious. I just love experimenting. So every plot I get, it's kind of its own incubator,
Hmm.
and I try not to replicate the experiment because then it gets kind of redundant. But I picked up. Let's see, I actually, um, Milo loaned me one of his
Hmm.
plots, and that hooked me in. I understood how to start building. And after I built my own space with my own crypto art, I started doing different stuff where then I built a gallery for art I was collecting. So I started to like figure out how curating a collection would work. Just recently, um, I started doing another one where I'm calling it an artist
Hmm.
co-op, where I took a plot and I divided it into 12 different shipping containers.
Okay.
So it's kind of got this industrial look, and I'm gonna have artists in each of those containers so people can kind of walk around like a mall and get a quick dose of a bunch of different art.
Yeah, that's interesting. What neighborhood is that in?
And that's up in Maudville.
Okay, that's one of the new ones, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just another thing that, who knows what'll come from it, but it's I knew the importance of someone loaning me some land to get my feet wet. So it's kind of like an onboarding zone as well, where people will get in there, and if they like it, then they're opened up to, get their own space and build out.
Yeah, totally. And that's awesome. It's actually a really good idea too. I've had a bunch of parcels for a while. I mean, after a period of time, you kind of run out of things to build and things to do. um,
I
but
know.
yeah, I've been trying to grab as many as possible just because they're so relatively cheap, and with the market down and everything, it's a steal to me.
Yeah, it's a low
Right.
risk. I mean, worst case is it doesn't, you know, the investment doesn't pay off, but like the fun I'm having is like paying off for any of that like risk. I'm just having a
Right.
blast. So I might as well do that than like go to an extra concert or eat out a couple times. It pays itself off pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm totally banking on Cryptovoxels becoming a completely unique like social platform, because after spending time talking to Ben, the developer, about everything he's doing and how he's full time with this now and how he's getting interns and his passion for it and his backstory and whatnot, he seems like he really wants to go all the way with this. And I think for a lot of us that have been around for a while, we kind of see his vision and we see where it's going in like next couple of years, even at the end of this year. Having all the parcels out there for the first time at like 3,000 or whatever it is, and then completely filling it out. That's a point where he doesn't know where to go from there. It'd just be like developmental stuff and trying to like fix bugs and whatnot. So there's some like value to those parcels, especially if it gains more traction. There's more foot traffic, and with since we're kind of like on the advent of VR and everything, I just can't imagine something like Cryptovoxels not getting a lot of attention over the next like 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be a couple different, um, there's already a couple, Decentraland and Somnium. I don't know how to say that correctly.
Yeah, Somnium
There,
Space.
yeah, so there's a couple of those that are popping up, and I feel like they all have their own um, possible use case. I really
Hmm.
see voxels as being like, um, I'm from LA art scene, so I'm used to like the underground, graffiti guys,
Right.
the Shepherd Fairies, the guys who are like a little bit underground,
Hmm.
and I see there being a certain draw for different types of people. Like it's perfect for artists. You don't need to have some intense coding, no like Unity knowledge to 3D model. You don't, the barrier of entry is very low,
Right.
and I think that alone it's a first mover for the common person, which I think is huge. So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, next 4 or 5 years are going to be really interesting to see, because we got the new Oculus Quest that just came out this past spring, and that's driving tons and tons of attention. It's incredible too. When I put on that headset for the first time like a month ago, because I finally could get my hands on one, I was surprised that you could actually see through the headset. Like the sensors are like built on the headset, and it allows you to like move in like 3 degrees freedom or whatever it is, 6 degrees of freedom, up, down, left, right, back and forth, just like the Rift, just without the cords.
Mm.
But I didn't know that it like mapped out your environment. So like when I put it on, I was like, okay, well, how am I supposed to draw or like get like the area that I can like play in, And then all of a sudden it put an entire picture of my room up. It
Oh,
freaked me
geez.
the hell out. Yeah. So I don't know if you've tried Quest or not yet, but
No, I'm actually just about to buy it. I have the link on my screen that I'm looking
like I literally
at.
had my headset on. I was walking around my house and I was like, this is ridiculous. The
Wow.
technology is it's definitely here, and I think when more people start realizing that, they're going to jump into VR, they're going to spend more time in VR, and what does that lead to? They're going to have more places that they need to go to outside of just Facebook's platforms, right? So
Yeah.
for me, it's like, okay, well, Cryptovoxels is a good alternative place they could go outside of like VR chat and alt space and whatnot, which are cool, but I mean, who wouldn't want to walk around in Cryptovoxels in VR? I mean, it's kind of stunning
Oh,
when you
yeah.
look at it sometimes.
Yeah, I got to do just a really brief. I think it must have been the Rift. It was at the Bitcoin San Francisco
Hmm.
conference, and I got to throw on the headset and look at my own gallery, and it was kind of like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where I was used to like designing and playing with it on my desktop, but then I was like inside of like I zoomed in to the screen.
Hmm.
It Willy Wonka, I don't know what, but it was like some crazy. It messed with my head for a while.
Yeah, it's
Um,
crazy.
that's my only concern personally is, you know, one more thing that I'm gonna get sucked into.
Yeah, I think it's just reality, though. I mean, we're all sucked into
It
our
is.
phones now. I mean, eventually we won't have our phones. We'll be wearing everything. It'll be like VR, AR, or
Mhm.
whatnot. I think it's just a change that we'll have to get used to in time.
I'm fully supportive of it's fine. I mean, and also it's just a whole new like honestly all I want to do is make art all day long and I don't get to do that all day
Hmm.
long. So if there's a new way that I can, flex my creative brain, I'm all about hopping into VR and trying to figure stuff out in there.
Yeah,
That's the most exciting thing to
yeah,
me.
there's definitely a lot of opportunities for art and VR. But yeah, let's talk about that more. Because I know that you do a lot of art and everything. And I've seen some interesting, crazy pieces too, like walking around in Cryptovoxels when I go by your parcels. So yeah, tell me a little bit more about that. Like, what do you have that you released or recently, or what kind of style do you like? I'm like generally curious.
Yeah, I started off, God, it must have been a little over a year ago with this decentralized portrait series where I started doing these decentralized portraits. So I took 10 different pictures of, say, for, the first one was Vitalik. So I took 10 pictures of Vitalik and clipped an ear, a nose, a face, a forehead, all the different pieces off of different pictures. Then I reassembled them into a new portrait. And um, my specialty is with stereoscopics,
Hmm.
which is like 3 dimensions and depth. So I started combining those into 3D, and it was just totally fun to me. I'd never done a portrait before, and it was that out of the comfort zone, fresh thing. And I'm still doing them today, and they're just so much fun. There's no rules, and the more experimenting I do, I come up with new ways to animate the artworks and just keep pushing my own um, skill sets. So it's really interesting if you look at the first ones compared to the ones I'm doing now. There's definitely an evolution lineage, which I think in the long term, if someone's collecting this type of stuff, it'll they'll be able to tell what was earlier and what was later, and it's up to them, what they like more. But it's fun for me to take a step back and see where I've come from and where I'm going.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting, and you definitely have a unique style. Put like taking those pieces and like putting them all together, like the Vitalik one. I've definitely seen that one around, and I've seen it a lot on Twitter too. It's definitely interesting. Is that one of your newest ones?
The Vitalik. So the way I've been doing the digital ones, they're all for the most part like one of ones on super rare.
Hmm.
So I've done Vitalik. I've done the most of. So I do. I see Vitalik. It's up to like I think I've done 6 of them, and this is part of the experiment of when does a one of one. My personal opinion is the more you see of an image and a series, the more it shows it's successful, as long as people are buying it. So I'm testing that with Vitalik. So I was originally gonna like maybe only do 1 or 2, but I just kept coming up with these just interesting pieces of art, and I was like, well, why not release it? It's a piece of art, I'm just gonna make it. So the Vitalik one started off very. My very first one was tokenized on Rare Art Labs and their ERC20
Hmm.
tokens. So I released an anaglyph, which is a red and blue 3D glasses of that one.
Uh-huh.
And that was the very first like foray into the series. And then since then I went to like an animated GIF that kind of wiggled back and forth to start doing some motion.
Hmm.
And then my newest ones is spacing out the layers and kind of orbiting around it to give even like more hyper motion and kind of some surrealism in there.
Hmm.
So each one is like they all stand on their own. Like they're all unique pieces. I definitely don't put out 2 that are kind of the same to honor the one of one. But each one is its own beast. And I've done I've also done a few Andreas Antonopoulos, a couple Dorian Nakamoto's, some John McAfee. So I'm trying to pick people who are also polarizing in the space.
He's like a
McAfee
celebrity, yeah.
is yeah, he's a celebrity, and I think those are the people who will have a footnote in the history of crypto. They did something. They didn't invent Ethereum, but they were huge. Like he was the ICO hype guy, like eat your junk at $1 million guy.
Yep.
Like that's that's something. So I
It,
that's the hard part is
it,
picking the guys too. It's actually a really hard
oh, I
process.
know. Well, McAfee, I mean, he's huge in the crypto world. I mean, he's incredibly polarizing.
Yeah, he was more of the easier. I wouldn't call him a villain, but like when I look at people, like there's philanthropic people, there's inventors, and then there's like the bad
Hmm.
guy, and it's hard to pick a guy who's like kind of on the edge because you're kind of giving him power when you make a piece of art about him.
Yeah.
So I think I think very hard about people before I make pictures. There's plenty of people who run projects that I could make one. I could make a Justin Sun right now, but I'd hate myself for like giving him any power.
Don't do you not like Justin Sun?
So oh, I'm sorry. No, I don't.
Oh, I don't have opinion either way. I'm just curious. It's interesting. No, I mean, I don't know if you invest in Tron or use the Tron network or anything like that.
I shouldn't be so graph. I don't hate the guy. I just
No.
that came up a little
No,
hard.
hey, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion. I I I don't really
Yeah,
care either way either, but I mean, I do find him very interesting for sure for a number of reasons.
he's a master marketer, which I really do like. I really applaud him. Like the announcement of an announcement, like kind of blew my mind. Like he really handled that, and it worked
Yeah,
out.
he's a great marketer for sure.
So hey,
I mean, Tron is basically a huge rip off of Ethereum, and they completely copied it and then like put their own spin on it. Like, I totally like get that whole vibe. But I mean, at the same time, he's incredibly good at marketing, and he's a smart kid. So it's like I kind of don't like the project, but at the same time, I kind of respect him a little bit. It's weird. It's interesting. He's fun to follow, though.
yeah, I'll take your word for it. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing is when someone pops into my head, I have to think about. first of all, do I want to look at this person's face for the next 30 hours of artwork if I want them to be in the series? So, I'm actually like maybe like Caitlin Long, some of these people like
Mm-hmm.
from Wyoming, like these people who are just like trying to like help the
Right.
system. Like, it's so anyways, it's an interesting
You know who you should
project.
do is you should do one for Charles Hoskinson.
Yeah, he's on that maybe list.
Yeah, he's
I'm not
he's an interesting
I'm not
guy for
sure.
sure.
His beard would be interesting to like clip apart.
Oh
I
my
could
gosh, yes,
do some crazy
yeah, you could
beard.
do a lot with his beard. He has like the funniest like attitude and demeanor like on Twitter too, because he gets so fired up when guys like Justin Sun or Dan Larimer start like marketing EOS or Tron, and he has such a strong opinion about it. It's almost kind of comical in a lot of ways. But no,
Yeah.
he's a cool guy too. I mean, he's doing a lot for the space. He'd be an interesting person to do like an art piece for. Like, he'd definitely mess with his Harry Potter glasses and his beard and everything. And
Yeah, I know that the caricatures can happen pretty quick with this. When I made the Vitalik, it kind of like felt like
Mhm.
Mad Magazine, and if you looked at Vitalik, you wouldn't get that impression. But as soon as I started like oversizing his ear or whatever it was, like it just became a like caricature of himself. So there's a fine line because I don't want him to look at it and be like, I fucking hate that. I want it to have a little bit of, it's
right.
it's still
No, it's
respectful.
art. I mean, I'm sure he would. I'm sure if he
Yeah,
has seen it, he probably finds it humorous. I mean, he's the one on stage
yeah,
like singing with like unicorns in the background and like weird shit. So I'm sure he wouldn't find it offensive.
yeah. Who knows? I don't know. I think once you're in the public spotlight, I think that's just part of the ride you're on. Is you're just part of culture, and art is a riff of culture.
It is in a lot of ways. Who do you want to do next?
As we're doing this, I'm like thinking about who I want to do next, and actually one of them I thought would be fun would be like the Winklevoss twins.
Yeah, that would be a good
Like
one.
do a duo, right? And then
Hmm.
but they're like identical twins, so I could actually clip probably, or I have to find the nuances of whose ear is different. I'd have to do a little
Well,
research.
they're twins. They could be
Um,
the same person. You could just draw one Winklevoss
that's why, yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah, exactly.
and then maybe make little changes on it. I mean, it'd be kind of funny to have just say the Winklevoss twins or the Winklevi, and then have like one Winklevi because they're basically the same.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I actually think just for the fun of it, they're high up on the list. But we'll see. I'm doing lots of different things. I kind of like go in waves.
Yeah, there's a lot of people I could think of too.
The Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of folks. I mean, yeah, but I think the Winklevi could be a good option because at the same time, also, we're also in this as our own marketers for the movement. This is for me to have fun making art,
Mhm.
but also a huge conversation starter.
Oh, absolutely.
And as soon as you get, I would love to get like an investment banker who happens to know the Winklevoss guys. I could teach him about crypto just at an art show, and I think that's a huge power to kind of making crypto and art and getting it out to the traditional art
Hmm.
markets. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll
Have you
see.
interacted with any of the other artists on Cryptovoxels? Because I know there's a lot of them.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch. It's kind of different. There's some overlap. I know most everybody on Super Rare, and I would say some majority of those are on
Hmm.
Voxels. But then there's people like Joy
Yeah.
Portal or the Joy guy. Oh my god, I'm in love with his stuff.
Yeah, I think that's. I think Devil does that one. I go by usernames because everyone uses a username on Discord. No one really often goes by their actual name. So I don't remember what his name
I
is.
actually just got in touch with Joy like today or something on Twitter. It was like one of these elusive people. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
cool. I think he was playing with his Oculus Quest and did a cool little
He's got a
video
lot of
of him
talent. He
drawing.
really does.
Oh yeah,
Like
he's legit.
he had a couple parcels in Frankfurt, and he did like this entire like Cheese Wizard's castle. It was absolutely ridiculous.
Yep, I've been to that. Yep, those blow my mind.
Yeah, he's definitely got some skill. But I mean, I've
Yeah.
talked to a lot of these artists, and I've talked to them like sometimes on a daily basis. I've had a number of them on the podcast too. They're absolutely fantastic. And usually the conclusion we always come to is that with the art they're doing, with crypto art, it's really a driver for attention for a lot of people, because I mean, it's content. You can put it on social media, you can take it to a conference, you can give it to somebody, someone can buy it from you, you can put it on OpenSea as an NFT, and it's when people ask about it, it sparks conversation. I mean, art can carry a story and tell a lot about whatever the agenda is, in this case crypto. And I think for a lot of these artists, they see the opportunity to help educate the general public through art. And it's an interesting way of going about it too.
Yeah, I agree. It's really the Wild West. There's just so many avenues depending on what type of art you're making. You can literally just you can just innovate, and it's still so far ahead of the curve of like 99.9% of other
Mm-hmm.
artists. I'll tell all my artist friends. I tell them all about what I'm doing, and not pushing, just planting seeds and educating and just sharing, and it literally goes over everyone's head, and they kind of tune me out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, I'm not trying to sell you anything, I'm just telling you like some new tech. And it's just too much. So it's very early on for anybody who's taking chances and experimenting. I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, it's cool though, right? I mean, because I know like the art industry in general, it kind of gets a little snooty, it kind of gets a little boring. Like, what are we making art for? Like, unless there's like a
Hmm.
movement or there's like something happening in the world, you don't really pay attention to art. Not like you used to. But in like crypto, it's cool though. Like when you see art popping up all over the place, because there's so much culture that has come out of the entire crypto industry in the last 10 years. And there's a lot to piggyback off of. And it just feels like it's the cool thing to do, like for artists at least. And I just see more of them like every single day.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think we, since I started, and I'm by no means like the OG like crypto graffiti or anybody, but
Mm-hmm.
since I've been in here for a year and a half, I've seen a huge uptick in just general artists. Like there's kind of a difference in my mind. There's a person who makes art about crypto,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a person who uses crypto to interact with their art, or like it's digitized on the blockchain, but it
Right.
doesn't reference the movement. So there's
Mm-hmm.
a couple different camps that are kind of interweaving. But
Right.
in the last 6 months or so, there's just been so many digital painters and just collage artists who are coming in, and I can just tell the excitement from them that all of us, there's a gazillion artists out there, and it's so very difficult to sell a piece of art even for like too cheap. It's
Mm-hmm.
very hard for them to pay for art. But here, you can, as long as it's good, I mean, there's active buyers, and you might make 50 or $100,
Yeah.
and that's really hard to do. Like even if you're busking or at an art fair,
Oh yeah.
you gotta work real hard for that.
They're flying off OpenSea right now. There's just so many easy avenues to create digital art and then list it as like an NFT. And then, I mean, for an artist, that's like a dream, being able
Hmm.
to have like an art piece that you make and then guarantee that you're not only going to get paid 100% for it, but at the same time that there's like a history of ownership that always links back to you permanently on the blockchain. Like stuff like that's completely invaluable. And then,
Yep. And the secondary sales,
mhm. Oh yeah, the
like
secondary
on
sales are ridiculous too.
secondary sales is the total game changer.
Mhm.
I mean, there's a guy, like even the big wigs, they'll cash in once. They might make 20K off of a painting, and they're happy.
Mhm.
But when that thing sells for 5 mil in 20 years, they don't get any of that.
Right. Do
So
you know Josie?
yeah.
Yeah. So I have one of her NFTs, and then it's cool because like if I decided to like sell her NFT, there's a fee that goes directly to her. And then if someone bought it from me and they decide they want to sell it, they would also have to pay a fee to her as well. It's cool how you can do that with the blockchain, because then as an artist, you're not like, it's not like a one thing, like a one-time deal, and then you're not getting screwed over. And then again, like the whole history behind it too. So it's like, in general, I like NFTs. I think NFTs are an awesome solution.
Yeah, I do too, and I still think we're really early in the NFT world, because even since I've been in it, it went from ERC20s to ERC21
Mhm.
or ERC 721s,
Yeah, the 721s have
and
blown up in the last year though.
yeah, yeah. But even there still needs to be upgrades to those.
Mhm.
Like this, it's still not finalized. Like all the image data isn't directly on the token, right? There's still things can improve. Like by all means, like there's nothing wrong with the 721,
Right.
but as technology improves, we're going to be able to store more data on on the tokens themselves. And I think those are just exciting things. I don't know how to do it, but when someone does it, I'll be so happy to use it.
Yeah, I mean, it there's so many issues though with like Ethereum right now. Like if I wanted to buy an NFT, and if it's like an expensive NFT, my gas fees might be high depending on if OpenSea is like really
Mm,
busy that day, which kind of sucks because I don't want to shill out a decent amount of money for an NFT that I think has future value and then have to pay this giant fee for it too on the side, on top of the OpenSea fee and then the creator fee. And then so there's some downfalls to that a little bit. Like Ethereum needs to like hurry up and get to Ethereum 2.0, or there needs to be another blockchain that more quickly solves that issue, or at least gives you an option, because like
hmm
gas fees have definitely been an issue lately.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's the thing where these other blockchains, who knows? I mean, right now we're banking on Ethereum, but EOS has, I think, somewhat of a thriving art market. There's other chains that are trying to solve these same issues, and I don't know. Time will tell, but at the same time, you know, people like us who are creating, it's just I don't have. I hate to say I don't have time, but I just need to create, and I'm
Mhm.
along for the wave just like everyone else. So
Yeah, time will definitely tell. I
we'll
mean,
just have to see.
the problem is most people aren't aware of what you can do on these other blockchains, and if you're using EOS, Tron, Cardano in the future, or whatever it may be, and you're putting your art up there, or through a DApp, you're putting up your art. Your audience might be significantly smaller than Ethereum, because people know about Ethereum, and Ethereum is the cool kid on
Mm,
the block. Everyone wants to
yeah,
build on Ethereum, interact on Ethereum, hold Ethereum. It's just easier, and the audience is way bigger. So, which kind of sucks because Ethereum's got so many issues it's got to figure out. So, I don't know. It's a little it's a pickle for sure.
yeah. I mean, that's why we're here. We're early adopters, and part of that is taking chances, and you know, things will shake out. I don't think. I mean, I don't think Ethereum's going anywhere. I think their focus might have to shift if it's based on scaling, but I in terms of anything besides Bitcoin, I feel most comfortable with Ethereum right now.
Yeah, I mean, I hold a lot of Ethereum too, and the project's been around for so long, so it's not something I really worry about. I just wish that when you build a blockchain that's supposed to come to consensus, it'd be nice if they actually came to consensus on some decisions,
Hmm
and to actually make the platform work better. But I mean, it's just going to take time. I mean, that's the headache of being an early adopter. You see the opportunity, you get in early, and then you have to deal with all the bugs and the hiccups and whatnot.
Yeah, but it's fascinating. There's so many different projects. Like another one, Playform.
Hmm.
I don't know if they're. I don't. Are they? I've been using their AI, their
Hmm.
GAN software. Have you seen any of their stuff?
A little bit. I'm not completely familiar with it though.
So, like GANs where you can feed images in, and they kind of process
Yeah,
and find similarities and replicate.
yeah.
Did you have you seen the Gandinsky projects I'm doing?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
So one of my favorite artists is Kandinsky, and I started looking at Playform, and I've wanted to do a Kandinsky project for years and years, but like not really sure why. I needed a reason and like a process and a method. So I started feeding in Kandinsky artworks into the Playform, and I was getting these super grungy, like distressed renditions of his work that were just beautiful to me. And I made them into my own 3D style. So I animated and 3D'd these Kandinsky paintings. I don't know. I just love the way they're coming out. It's just a whole new, another risk experiment that I love, and I threw up a little voxels gallery for it.
Where
So that's been
where are these at? Where can I take a look at them?
the Kandinsky one is. I'll have to send it to you. I can look it up right now if you want
Yeah,
as we're
yeah,
talking.
just send it to me. I'll take a look at it. I can follow along with what you're saying.
Oh yeah, okay. So the main thing that's been so much fun about it is that project is almost directly speaking to the portraits I'm doing. So I started doing this 3D orbiting in my portraits. So took that same type of method and started doing the Gandinskys in the same method.
Hmm.
But it's been super fun to actually be able to use one of my favorite artists who, the guy was alive 100 years ago and never, there's no computers. And it's just like I'm giving him a little bit of like artist love and like remixing his work
Hmm.
and feeling like he's there with me. Like every decision I make is based on if Vasali was with me in the studio. I'm very like passionate with the art. So whenever I would do anything that has Kandinsky's name on it, I have to like instinctually fact check if he would be cool with it.
I'm in on my phone in Cryptovoxels right now, looking at it.
Good luck.
It's actually gotten a lot better. Like there's a whole like trackpad or whatever like you'd have like on an Xbox, and then it's a lot easier to move
Oh, cool.
around. So yeah, I love Cryptovoxels. Jesus,
Oh, I do too.
love being able to do this on my phone.
Yeah. So in that gallery, I put the original work, and then I put what I made next to it. So there's some reference of what it was and what it became.
Gotcha. Oh, so are these NFTs up too?
Yeah, yeah. So there's video NFTs. I put those on OpenSea, and then the still ones are on Super Rare.
Very cool. I also like your signature, by the way. It's like you were trying to go for something cool, and then you kind of just said "fuck it," and then and then I don't know. It's interesting. I can't read. It doesn't like say Coldie. Kind of does, but
It's really funny. So the story behind that was I was out with some friends, and we went to Hooters.
uh huh,
And at Hooters, you like write your name on a napkin,
uh huh.
or at least that's what they had us do. And I just had a Sharpie and I just drew it out, and I just liked it. And I kept that napkin for about 10 years, and then I scanned it, and I've never tried to like draw that thing again. That's just like what it is.
Right. I like
So
your
yeah,
description too. Who the fuck is Coldie?
thanks. I'm still trying to figure that out.
An award-winning mixed media artist. I thought it said mixed martial artist for a second. That'd be interesting. No, it's cool. I like this build. Every once in a while I'll see one of them. I pop inside. The art is just interesting, especially the like when you create like a GIF for it and it's like animated art, and then you put that up as an NFT. Like that's
Yeah,
really cool. I like how that you can take art nowadays and then add life to it in a lot of ways, make it animate, almost make the art like convey a message to you, talk back to you a little bit. It's an interesting aspect of the whole art blockchain combination and stuff that's kind of come out of it.
yeah, and before I was working in this type of digital art, a lot of my posters and prints, they're called lenticulars.
Uh-huh.
So what that means is it's a flat sheet, but there's a lens built on top, so the image actually pops off of the
Hmm.
lens in 3D. So when I'm creating, I'm inherently working with depth. But when you go digital, things are flat, right? We don't have the built-in like depth perception.
Mm-hmm.
So it forced me to try to figure out ways to give it motion, but still reference the original artwork.
Right.
So I'm just liking just messing around and there's just no rules.
No,
It's fun.
there's no rules. You're in the Wild West, on uncharted waters in terms of blockchain, and especially blockchain and art. So you see a lot of interesting stuff, especially on OpenSea.
Oh yeah. Yeah, then that I put these on OpenSea as a test because I've been using Super Rare pretty much exclusively, and just to understand like what you were saying about the artist commission like Josie's doing,
Mm-hmm.
I just like to test different platforms and feel them out. Even though I'm super happy with um, Super Rare, the community, the buyers, it's great. I felt like I was kind of just living in a vacuum.
Right.
So putting those on OpenSea, you know, different people are looking around OpenSea, and as an artist, I just want to know what else is out there.
Yeah. Oh, so what's it called? A super. God damn it. Super Rare is very interesting, compared to like OpenSea, where like it's so open, where anyone can post whatever and create content and art and put it up as an NFT. Super Rare is definitely a bit more exclusive. I remember talking definitely a while back on the podcast actually with Jonathan about it, Jonathan Perkins, and kind of talking about the art industry and everything and crypto and how, and it was even more early back in the spring when we were having this conversation. But Super Rare has definitely gotten to the point where they've had so many submissions and so many people want to be on that platform that they've gotten a little bit exclusive in some ways, which is kind of interesting how that audience has moved to that platform. And then when you compare it to something like OpenSea, which is just as popular, but is just like almost completely wide open. Like anyone can open up an NFT store on OpenSea. Anyone can upload an image or a GIF or whatever to OpenSea and put it up as an NFT in a minute. It's pretty quick.
Do you feel that is it hard for you to find things that are meaningful for you on OpenSea?
It depends. Like I feel like there's a lot of just crap on OpenSea, but I mean people are just throwing shit out there. So I mean I can't blame them, but at the same time, also every once in a while you run some really cool stuff. There's a lot of like art that gets posted like on Additional, for example, and then Additional, some of that art gets moved up to OpenSea. And you get some like really cool, like some abstract art pieces. And I'll like grab one of those every once in a while. But I mean, for me, it's more like when I know a project or I know that a neighborhood in Cryptovoxels is going to be a big deal, or if I know that Josie's a big deal. Like if she's going to put something out that's going to be unique compared to what she usually does, that's something I'm going to buy for sure. I'm not going out and buying a wand or a cheese wizard character. Like I really don't care too much about that. I mean, if you want to like play the game and like enjoy it, yeah, totally. But like, if you're investing in it and you're looking for value, I mean, I think you got to look at the value of the project or the value of the individual that's putting out that NFT. And just using Josie as an example, because we've talked so much. She's also very popular. NFTs usually fly off OpenSea pretty quickly. So like when she puts something out that's a bit more unique and has a bit more of a story, I'll definitely try and buy something like that. Mm-hmm. Or with Cryptovoxels, for example, when Ben decides to release a neighborhood, if he releases a kitty's neighborhood, I don't care too much to buy a parcel there. But if he releases something like Frankfurt or Midtown that's got something unique to it, like higher build limits or bigger parcels or whatever it may be, yeah, I'll probably jump in and grab something like that. For me, it's like where's the value at? Because we're so early in the space. It's not like every single NFT is valuable. There's a lot of bullshit. But I mean, if you look beyond the vast amount of NFTs that are out there, and you can figure out like who's like active in the space, who's got a little bit of popularity, who's creating real value or providing value. That's the stuff I like to invest in, at least when it comes to NFTs.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. You're talking about the wands, and what I'm really looking at is like the
Yeah,
wearables for
those are
VR.
interesting too.
I think that's what's that.
Those are also interesting. Um,
Yeah, so it'll be interesting how that whole space evolves because right now, it seems kind of silly for me to spend $5 on a virtual
mhm,
shirt, but I guarantee when there's 100,000 people walking around, they're all going to want to stand out.
right.
So I think that's gonna be a huge market. So there's a lot of those little stuff.
Yeah, I know for Cryptovoxels actually when Ben released the names, the usernames on OpenSea as NFTs, you could buy and invest in the username you'd want to use in world. So if I wanted to be Coldie, and then I could just
Better not.
I could just register Coldie, and then I could sell it on OpenSea if I wanted to.
You can sell it
Um,
to me.
or I could sell it to you, or I could keep it. I could be Coldie and confuse a lot of people. But I know as soon as that came out, and a lot of us in the community are um, very tight knit and know when stuff's coming out before most
Mhm.
people. A lot of us kind of jumped on it really quickly, and we had to get it pulled down from the auctions and everything because we were grabbing a lot of names just to kind of like hold them hostage and whatnot. And
Yeah.
um, and why was that being done? Because I mean, there's value to that. Like if Cryptovoxels becomes popular, Elon Musk's name is a commodity. Like if you have hundreds of thousands of people a month, let's say, visiting Cryptovoxels, like in world walking around, potentially more than that. I mean, there's no limit to how many people, how many times you could be walking around in that environment. What you wear, what you bring with you into Cryptovoxels, or whether it's just your username, all that stuff becomes very unique and is like an identifier in that environment. So at least with like the names and everything, that definitely had instant value, but it also was an issue right away because it was so early that people could just hoard these names as NFTs. It's another issue with like the whole space too, because there's not like a whole lot of awareness of what's going on in the NFT world. I mean, relatively compared to the general population. So if Cryptovoxels releases something like that, I mean, a lot of us can buy a whole bunch of them and just sit on them. So
Mhm.
it's it's difficult. It's one of those things where you want to push a project or you want to try new things, but at the same time you're trying to be fair because there's not enough people that are aware of that, and you don't want to have legal issues in the future and deal with stuff that's just negative for the space in general. But yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, I think, I'm definitely the same type of guy as like want to be fair, but I've just noticed that most people in the space are, um, you know, these, it's investments, like you were saying, all these lands and everything else, and there's just going to be people who go full board, and some are going to do really great off of those picks, and some will fizzle out. It's just kind of like part of your overall portfolio, I suppose.
It's definitely interesting. We were having a conversation about the legality behind everything. Like what happens when you grab certain names as like a username or the .ether addresses, for example. Are those considered? Are those like under ICANN? Like, does Amazon have a claim to Amazon.ether? Like, is that the same? Like, there's some issues behind that because I know a lot of us own some very interesting like .ether names, and they're a hot commodity because I mean it's a lot easier than using your entire Ethereum address to send someone money or to have someone pay you or just to put it out there. It's a lot easier for me to put my name .ether out there, right? Or
Yep.
whatever I want it to be, Coldie.ether. Um,
Yep.
but I mean, there's also that like, is there going to be a legal issue? Like, is Amazon going to be pissed that someone has Amazon.ether simply because they couldn't get in? Like, are we going to have legal issues? Is there going to be trademark lawsuits? We've had some interesting conversations around that because I mean, it's not a domain, but at the same time, it's a similar name, and then you have to assess whether it's being used to be sold like as an investment or if it's actually being used in the course of business or life or whatever. I don't know. It's an interesting conversation too, like the whole legality aspect behind crypto, just in general.
Yeah, and I mean the ENS names, I see them as more valuable than a .com because it's a payment channel, or
Mhm.
it's an alias. It's also a URL. It's got a whole bunch of different uses.
Yeah, it's cool that you can use a .ether to resolve like a website.
Uh
And
huh.
I've been like really trying to get that down. It's a little difficult. You have to use like MetaMask or you have to go through IPFS. It's a little bit of a process, but it'll get better in the future. But it's cool because it's like an all in one like thing that you need to remember. It like simplifies everything.
Hmm.
So like I could like for my name, I could have someone pay me anytime by sending it to my name.ether, and then it also takes them to my personal website and or to my business or podcast or whatever. So that aspect definitely has some value to it. Is there anything that you're doing specifically? Anything in the crypto art world or in Cryptovoxels or anything outside of that that you want the world to be aware of?
Kind of what we were talking about. I I just keep experimenting, and I would say the portraits and the Gandinsky are my two most current like active projects. And I would
Mhm.
just, if people want to find out about that, they can go to my website, Coldie3D.com, or look for me on Super Rare. And even follow me on Twitter. I'm most active on Twitter, and that's how I find out about everything.
Mhm.
So I'd love to connect with people, other artists, even if they want to learn about crypto art. Shoot me a message. I'd love to spread the good word. But yeah, I'm just trying to explore and experiment and have fun and meet new people like you and do cool shit.
Yep, I like doing cool shit too. Dude, really appreciate you coming on and everything, having a conversation, talking about Cryptovoxels, crypto art, whatnot, the industry, what you're doing. Yeah, definitely appreciate you taking the time today to do it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We'll have to do it again.
Absolutely. I'll have you on again in the future for sure.
Sounds good. I'll see you on the voxels.
I'll see you on the Voxels and I'll see you on the Twitter sphere.
Yeah, for sure. All right, take it
All
easy.
right, take it easy. See ya.
All right, bye.